know why we never tire of the hunt. People always answer with the obvious: pain, fear, the art of breaking a body. Those are amusements, yes, but shallow ones. True pleasure is in variety. A fauna's terror is deliciously pure, sudden, bright, all the instincts flaring at once. He runs his entire life in his head, his home, his children, his wife, and it all comes crashing down. His face becomes a map of every small regret he has ever had. A petty governor pleases in a different way. He has defenses, false courage, ceremony, 1,000 practiced lies. Tearing those away is like peeling layers off of fruits to find the rot beneath. He preens for his courtiers until the moment his voice cracks, and then the sound he makes, that sound tells me what he valued most. And then there are the warriors, hulking, armored, bred for slaughter. Oh, the warriors sing a slow, long song. He counts on ritual and honor. He expects a duel of metal and pain. But when you force him to watch the things he swore to protect be unmade, when his code becomes ash, and the crack is not in his skin, but in his very soul, that is most exquisite. We hunt them all because they teach us different lessons. We learn the geometry of fear from the civilians, the hypocrisy of power from the nobles, and the limits of honor from the angels in armor. Each quarry refines us. Each scream, each flinch is a different note in a long, tall drink taken by she who thirsts. So ask me again if it's cruelty I enjoy. I will tell you, cruelty is the tool. The hunt is the craft, and we are its most devoted artists.
Yeah, this one is going to feel like a repeat of the Night Lords. I'm not even going to lie. We really had to get 2 skinning factions back to back, huh? I wanted Tyranids to win, man. I know a good amount about Tyranids. I want to talk about High Fleet Tiamat, man. Next time, Xenos, you might get your chance next time. The voting was actually pretty close in the first half, and then, of course, the rest of the subscribers woke up and everyone's neurons fired up at the concept of discussing goth knife ear bad bitches. I can't really blame anyone. I like dark elves in many different forms, but I don't like these guys. They're kind of fucking crazy. We're talking Q from, is it Q or Qua? I think it's Q. We're talking Q from All Tomorrows type shit. I see this image a lot for claiming the most evil villains in fiction, and while it's kind of hard to choose a single Drukhari, I think they belong here somewhere. This video, I'm gonna try my best to not get it age restricted or demonetized. That being said, this is a thumbnail because I'm an idiot. If that does happen, could you do me a favor and subscribe and like the video? A majority of the viewers aren't actually subscribed, and I don't take it personally, but you know, there's room for all of you in the warband. We got a shack outside for y'all to sleep in. Regardless, I am Diodium, the man in the broken tower, here to do a redux of the Night Lords video, and it somehow gets worse from here. Oh my god, it gets worse. I'm kind of talking up the Drukhari in all honesty. They're still foul, but once we get to Trench Crusade one day, it might just be worse. I don't know how many people are ready for the Black Grail. I recently saw some art for the Great Hunger, and I was not ready for that. It's fucking awesome though. Also, we hit 5k. Thank you. And memberships are also open if you're into that. I am torturing myself as an incentive. In addition to making a Discord and having to say the names of my friends who I mistakenly told about this channel, I am also copying Eons of Battle. I put your name on a model in my army, and after a year of being a member, depending on your tier, I kit bash a model for my army for you to be a part of the Broken Tower. Why? I don't know, I like kit bashing and I thought it'd be cool. Someone asked to be a Chaos Maid girl. Slaanesh has infiltrated the Broken Tower, please help. So, the Drukhari, or the Dark Eldar. Obviously, GW needed a copyrightable name, so we're going with the former. Or sometimes the latter. It doesn't really matter. This is, funnily enough, the first Eldar video of the channel, and honestly, I do like the Drukhari. I think if I had to choose an Eldari faction that has models, shut up, the Exilites don't have models, then I would probably choose the Drukhari. They're just so fucking evil, it's comical. This is a forewarning because I think it's worth saying. The Drukhari are actually a pretty massive faction. Like, I will not be able to cover everything in this video. These videos are already nearly a half hour long and YouTube doesn't like that unless it's a renovation video or something. I reserve full rights to talk about the 3 parts of the Drukhari in the full future, that being Kabalites, Witch Cults, and the Homunculus Covens. We're gonna touch on them in this video, just know I can't cover literally everything. Also, as always, if I get something wrong, correct me. I got corrected a lot because I mistakenly said Lorgar benched the Warhound Titan in the last video, and you know what? I'm kind of mad that's the only thing I got corrected about. Because this either means you guys fucking hate Lorgar and don't want him to have a win, or I'm right and Kurz got what he deserved. Also, Kurz got what he deserved. So, this all started 40 million years ago because of some fuck-ass frogs. Again. So the Old Ones made the Eldar, and yes, the Old Ones did make them. Drazen literally has an Eldar in his gallery, along with a Krork, and calls them twisted creations of the Old Ones. Screw you guys in the comments telling me they didn't make them. I don't care if the War in Heaven is old. It still applies to canon. GW hasn't retconned it because Nottingham would get firebombed if they did. I don't talk about the Eldar and the Krorks back in the Necron video because it didn't really matter much to their story. All you need to know right now is that the Necrons fought 2 wars back to back and had no gas for a third, so the Krorks ended up beating the shit out of each other for fun, and the Eldar inherited the job that was being the masters of the galaxy. Not quite He-Man, more like He-Boy. I'm not funny, fuck you. The Eldar Empire actually lasted for a stupidly long amount of time when I went to go do research on it. Also, I was wrong. This all happened 60 million years ago because every source I found said the Eldar Empire lasted 60 million years. For context, 60 million years ago was like the Cenozoic era. Here's some art. That being said, the Eldar pale in comparison to the true final form of life in the galaxy, the humble shark. Killing and fucking for 450 million years, can't eat your heart out. The Eldar were doing some goofy shit in all honesty. They basically attained immortality, like TF2 respawning, and that's not even a meme. My source of this is Pancreas No Work because he's an Eldar fanboy and he would never lead me astray. Regardless, they ended up doing crazy shit like Dyson spheres, interdimensional highways for fun. Like I said, they could also literally respawn. The Eldar had everything they wanted. There was no resource shortages, there were no wars, so what do you do when you get bored? Well, just like any college kid, when you get bored, you start to experiment. I can't talk about what the Eldar did during their degradation. Let's just go ahead and just use our imaginations. Lots of sexual stuff of the Jeffrey Epstein variety, or one man, one horse, or one man, one jar, or a lot of other stuff. Don't look up any of those, by the way. Choose to love yourself. Just save yourself the trouble. But they ended up going too far in the pursuit of both pleasure, art, and so on in hedonistic ways. After all, when you have everything, what else are you going to do? We do see this a lot in our real life. You see a bunch of people who have more money than they could ever spend in their lifetime or 10 lifetimes, living lavish lifestyles, and things get pretty dark depending on who they are. But what happens when you literally don't need anything? Yeah. So a few things happened. The Eldar split. While the main stacks of them lived in places like their homeworlds, the hedonism got a bit too much for 2 groups in particular. The Craft World Eldar, who by name literally created craft-sized worlds, or crafts the size of worlds, to become their home and moved far away from their homeworlds. And the Exodites, who are not in-game and never will be, and I say this because I hate you, but they ended up going a bit more of the tribal route and ran off to become one with nature or something. The fan art is pretty sick though. So that leaves us with 2 groups of Eldar, the ones on their homes and the ones in the webway. The Eldar's interdimensional highway that BD tried to take because he's a failure and can't do anything right. And then shit got so bad that they literally murder-fucked a god into existence. So Slaanesh is born, the Eldar homeworlds get consumed by the Eye of Terror, a literal gateway into the warp, and billions if not trillions of Eldar, as they were the dominant force in the galaxy, all just died. We're talking like 99% casualty rate. The craft worlds barely escaped. The Eldar Exodites are not fine, but it's really not much of an issue unless they die. Kegarak, the Laughing God, literally bamfed a bunch of Eldar away to save them after a bunch of Eldar gods got murdered by Slaanesh, and then there's the Dark Eldar in the city of Kamra within the Webway. You see, Slaanesh claims all Eldar souls. There's none that are not claimed by her. We'll talk about that later. But all of those in the Webway are just out of reach of her because it's in a different dimension, but they're not fully out of reach of her. Or them. Just Slaanesh's gender doesn't matter, who gives a shit. So the Dark Eldar become the way they are, as Slaanesh, rather than claiming their souls, is slowly draining their life force till all that's left is the soul. How do you fix this? They appease Slaanesh with unbelievable torture, murder, and mostly torture, honestly. So that's the Drukhari's deal, and I'm going to switch between Drukhari and Dark Eldar, like I said. Games Workshop decided like 6th edition to try and give everybody a copyrightable name, so every old head who ever told me the lore always called them the Dark Eldar. Anyways, why don't we delve further into all this depraved shit? Fun fact about the Drukhari, they're pirates. You wouldn't think about it at first, but literally look at them. They swing curved swords around, they raid planets, their ships look like sand skiffs from Star Wars, and they literally raise flags when they sail around. They're pirates. So the Dark Eldar, I think I alluded to, are complicated. I don't know if we're going to be able to go into characters this video, at least not in depth, but there's 3 main parts of the Dark Eldar army, technically 4. The Cabals, the Witch Cults, and the Homunculus covens. So a few things to go ahead and talk about the Eldar. They're cloned. Acts of procreation are both dangerous and also boring to the Eldar. The Eldar aren't meant to be cumbersome. Carrying a few extra pounds on them, maybe even a few more extra pounds depending on how big the kid is, and raising a child is not a Dark Eldar thing to do, really. So most Dark Eldar are cloned with the exception of the most prestigious. These are called Trueborn Drukhari, or Drukhari Trueborn, I forget which way it goes. Dark Eldar of high status families who were made naturally, as a sign of either genetic superiority or privilege, as the parents are able to raise their child from infancy to adulthood in Kamara of all places, and they didn't die. Kamara is like, take Detroit, Atlanta, Compton, Baltimore, Memphis, Kowloon, and just the favelas of Rio. Now throw it in the webway, which doesn't adhere to normal physics and dimensions, and then make it bigger than the size of Texas. I was actually told that the size of Kamara is actually like size of a solar system, but that's not the point. Kamara is impossible to navigate even for most Eldar. It has crime rates that make Detroit active shooters look like they're armed with bubble guns. It's kind of the whole reason why Big E wanted the webway aside from travel. It's its own dimension and you can do almost anything you want with it. So where do the three branches of the Drukhari fit in the Dark City and just in the Drukhari in general? Let's start with the Cabals. That's probably my favorite branch, actually. It's the most simple. Technically, the Incubus sects are their own part, but I'm going to talk about them here because they kind of just match a little bit. So the Cabals are a paramilitary group manned by, obviously, the biggest piece of shit of all time. The only law the Cabals follow is eye for an eye. Everything else is on the table. Assassinations, torture, mass killings. Oh my god, dude, they love it all. If it violates the Geneva Convention, it's on their checklist. Kabalite warriors are the most basic units they have access to. Calling them a common soldier is kind of spitting in the face of how fucking evil they are. They're not the most evil, but at this point, all Dark Eldar are competing for that, and I think the Homunculus covens are taking the win, but more on them later. Kabalites do any task that is too important to be left up to a slave. Normally, these involve just killing people. Despite the fact that they are the lowest in the Cabal, they're still seen as a worthy profession compared to the gangs and scum that inhabit the Dark City. As worthy of a profession as you can get for being a guy who steals people's skin. Above the Kabalite is a Saberite? Cenobite. No, it's not Cenobite. They're the squad leaders, and beyond them are Kabalite Trueborn, which makes me laugh a bit. There's an entire rank dedicated to remind everybody that there are Nepo baby hires, and it's literally a Nepo baby because they were actually born and not made in a fucking tube. The leader of the Cabal is an Archon, and honestly, it's my favorite model in the army. Not because I like the model, no. I mean, there's actually cooler proxies out there, but that's not the point. It's because of a rule they have. Being the leader of the Cabal obviously means that they're the meanest, sickest, most crafty motherfucker around Kamara, especially if they're old. Killing your Archon if you think they'd slip up and let it happen is literally Drukhari tradition. But my favorite thing is that they have a 2-up invulnerable save on the tabletop, so it's a force field. Unless you get damaged by a mortal wound, you're always saving on a 2-up no matter what, right? But you can't re-roll the save, and if it fails, it goes away fully. It's called a shatter, if I remember correctly. Thus came the meme I learned a long time ago. My ass is so fat, it has a 2-up invuln, but it shatters. Mental image of that just makes me giggle like a dumbass. Also, this is just a quick aside. I went to a tournament in Temecula a long time ago. I say a long time ago, it was like a year ago, with my friends, and I ended up fighting the Dark Eldar. First off, holy fuck, they hurt. Second off, I managed to charge my Gravis captain and his aggressors in melee with some Kabalite, or is it Incubi leading the Archon, or the Archon leading the Incubi? I think it was the Archon leading Incubi. And all of my Gravis Marines got shredded, so I just hit Epic Challenge, and I proceeded to Power Fist the shit out of a Drukhari Archon with 6 Power Fist attacks because it's funny. Or was it 5? It doesn't matter. The only Cabal of name I want to talk about is the Obsidian Rose. Despite the edgy name, they're responsible for making arms, and not just any arms, they are the arms. This is like the cult of the Drukhari world, back when cult was good. Their Archon, Asteria Chromis, I think that's how you say her name, I'm pretty sure that's a woman, is an obsessive perfectionist. To own an Obsidian Rose weapon is to carry yourself higher than everybody else, regardless of your rank. To the point where if you get blood on that weapon, you will be tortured in the worst amount of pains imaginable. Why? Because I don't know if you know this, but Dark Eldar are really fucking fast. Like, they're literally impossible to fight against if you're not a Space Marine, or if there's more lasbolts in the air than there are molecules. However, I have no idea if this rule applies on things like blades, or maybe they don't make blades. Who knows? I want to talk about Incubi before we go on. I don't know if they're truly their own sect or what, but the Incubi are fucking, I love this phrase so much, mercenary warrior kings. They are the best of the best, acting as personal bodyguards to the Archons when they're not in battle. I know I'm reading into this a lot, but just the way it's worded, it sounds like It's like you're saying you're in the Secret Service as a hobby. They were founded by a fallen Phoenix Lord, which is the big shot aspect warrior of the Eldar, specifically the Phoenix Lord of the Striking Scorpions, though this is rumored. Some say the fallen Phoenix Lord is Drazar, Master of Blades, the baddest motherfucker to exist. This guy is able to go toe-to-toe with other Phoenix Lords and beat their asses. I love Drazar. He's also just a sick model. Though witch cults are pretty interesting, honestly. They're a lot more interesting than I thought they were. So the Dark Eldar are as cruel and as fucked as they get, but they don't want to kill each other. They absolutely will, but there's no point in giving Slaanesh more souls. So in order to satiate the desires of the depraved, the witch cults decided, but what if I make it into a business? Enter the witch cults. They train witches who are Colosseum fighters. They're not raiders, they're performers for the masses who are willing to pay exorbitant prices in order to view said performances. The witches are not killers. They turned killing into an art form. I don't go outside, so I don't really have a comparison in real life to just how valued their performances are, but like, I don't know, I was kind of thinking of making a Taylor Swift joke, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is what her performances actually look like. White women are crazy, and witches are the apex of white women craziness, and I'm only saying this because they're pale as shit. The witch cults, given the name, are pretty much all women. There are some males, the Beastmasters, but they're more of an auxiliary unit, and they literally exist to tame beasts for the witches to fight, or use in the rare occasion that they're in a raids. They're performers, they're not fighters. I don't really have much to say on them outside of blood brides. So all the witch cults are led by succubi. Blood brides are obviously all women who are performing for the favor of their succubus, not just to entertain and satiate the masses. So there's a bunch of deadly warrior women who barely wear any clothes, all vying for the attention of their girl boss, who wears even less clothes. If I told my friend about this, it would probably get her into Warhammer, honestly. Lilith Hesperax is the only named character for the witch cults, and I don't like her new model. I'm just gonna be real. She looks like a midget, and I don't care if that's offensive. And I know it's literally just the head-on view. She is somewhat better proportioned overall when you turn her model around in the 3D viewer, but it's just like, I don't like it. I like the older model, and hell, RTLW makes better proxies if you want sexy, skimpy elves, and fuck, I know I do. The last part of the Dark Eldar are the Homunculus covens, Homunculi covens. I don't remember. All right, this is where things get pretty fucked, and once again, I'm gonna be careful about how I say things, so because I would still like to have a channel. So these guys are, they turn people into living furniture, and I wish that was a joke. Actually, I don't. It's kind of just what makes them interesting. They are the most sick and twisted members of the Drukhari, in all honesty. We're going to talk about them more because I think everybody associates the covens with the Dark Eldar than any other sect. Raks, for instance, are individuals that the homunculi dissected, remade, and in some cases flayed, and are forced to remain alive to exist as instruments of torture and pain. Grotesques are, here's a funny story. Unlike Raks, who do sometimes volunteer to actually go through the process, grotesques are all forcefully made through experimentation and surgery. The closest thing I can refer to them is anybody who's familiar with CSM. Grotesques are basically chaos spawn. They're hulking masses of flesh, jagged bones, and literally exist just to fight and die. So, the Tau, am I right? Back when they were more ignorant of everything that existed in the galaxy, they thought the Drukhari were a decent, normal race. So they did a cultural exchange where some water-caste diplomats went back with the Drukhari and some Drukhari hanged out with the Tau. Eventually, they worked in some joint effort to do more stuff. I forget who they were fighting. It was probably orcs. And the Drukhari brought some new reinforcements, showing off some grotesque of a blue skin coloration. Yeah, they fucking mutated the diplomats. Also, while they were aiding the Tau, some other Drukhari ended up raiding some of the Tau planets in the background, and they obviously turned on them right at the end, because the Drukhari are assholes. And I fucking love these assholes. A Talos pain engine is like the Autodoc from Fallout. Specifically, the Autodoc Christine was stuck in during Dead Money. These things are both prized by their homunculi and also scrutinized. These things will kidnap people, rapidly dissect them, or bring them back to their master for mutation, experimentation, or interrogation. It's a lot of shins. These things can also absorb people, apparently. Also, if a Talos fails to meet the orders of their master or it consumes the wrong target, their master just fucking dismantles them and throws them away because the homunculi are fucking petty. Then we have the homunculi themselves. Just be real with yourself and look at them. What the fuck? So getting captured by a Dark Eldar is literally the worst thing of all time, right? Literally just actually the worst, aside from like maybe being turned into biomass. When a human from 40k dies, their soul goes into the warp and quickly dissipates into nothingness or becomes one with the warp or something. There's no real afterlife for humanity, and they just become part of the current. Unless demons get to them first and then rip them apart as just one last fuck you, because that's just the demon's MO. Homunculi are master flesh crafters. They mutate themselves to become stronger or more adept at their craft, and also to, you know, torture people and turn them into living furniture. That's not a joke. Homunculi are so goddamn adept at their craft that they can literally do Q shit from All Tomorrows. For anybody who doesn't know All Tomorrows, it's okay. Everybody lies and acts like they actually read it, just like they say they read Blood Meridian. But the point is that the Q are a hyper-evil race that are master flesh crafters that, as far as I can recall, literally ripped humanity apart into different races because they just fucking hated them. The ones who actually fought against them were converted into the colonial, or colonials. No, they are not right in common sense. They are in fact an entire section who was punished for fighting especially hard against the Q and pissing them off by turning them into fleshy living blocks of Q waste management, filter feeding off of said waste to survive. This is child's play for a homunculi. You want to know how much mastery the homunculi have over flesh? Let's say you are a person. As stated previously, being captured by the Drukhari is a fate worse than death. Do you want to be a living septic tank? No. Then it's time to put that lasgun in your mouth and pull the trigger. You want to know the problem? Homunculi will just resurrect you, regardless of what happens. You can literally destroy your body to ashes, and as long as there is a single fucking molecule of you that exists, they can resurrect you and drag your soul back into your body. Homunculi are fucking horrifying, and remember, these guys are from the faction that literally have to torture people to survive, and they also just do it for the love of the game. There is currently only one named homunculi character on the tabletop, and it's Urian Rakarth. Gameplay-wise, he's fucking hilarious. He has a one-shot flamer called the Casket of Cleansing. It's just Dale Gribble Pocket Sand turned up to 11. He also does some funky stuff with his melee weapons, but his abilities are fun. He can regen 3 wounds on a model, or if he's resurrecting racks, he can resurrect just 3 racks. And if he dies, he can resurrect on a 2-up and regain full health, because homunculi are fucking liches, and the only way to kill them is to both destroy their physical body and their soul at the exact same time. Nothing can be left up to chance when it comes to killing a homunculus. Alright, in lore, Urian Rakarth is like the literal worst. Fun fact, he's actually not the only Rakarth in Warhammer. There's one in Warhammer Fantasy, and he's actually a Beastmaster, which is kind of neat. He's also playable in Total War if you play those games and want to play Dark Elves if and when Creative Assembly end up fixing them. Rakarth's desire to be a master fleshcrafter and a depraved psychopath is so intense that he literally held a higher position of power and dropped it because he believes the petty squabbles of Kamara are completely beneath him. And let's be real, he's fucking right. I don't want to defect in this episode, just know that I'm saving him for a future video. I'm toying with the idea of just talking about the most fucked up villains in 40k, and there's no way to defend the Drukhari, like, zero. You can't even say they're forced into the torture because that's only halfway true. They also enjoy doing it. I fucking love this meme, by the way. It's just genuinely understandable reaction after all the art I had to look up today. The Drukhari are pure evil. Sure, Chaos is evil as well, and frankly, they're the antagonists of 40k. However, when it comes to Chaos, you can find some good in them. It's not a great idea, but I've said this before, Corner's honorable, Tzeentch encourages change, Nurgle encourages content, and Slaanesh is emotion. Drukhari are pure fucking evil. There is no redeeming them. I'm not going to talk about Maris High from Rogue Trader because there's 2 reasons. One of the main things is that I haven't recruited him in Rogue Trader. He's pretty funny, but I think they had to make him approachable. Otherwise, you would literally just gun him down the first time you met him. And I'm pretty sure most people gunned him down the first time they met him because you meet him in a fight. Hell, I wanted to gun him down when I first met him. If you recruit him in the game, you're one of 3 people. You want to see his content because you already paid for the game, so you might as well. You have a build idea that you want to do for him and it only works out just for him. Or you're an emotionally and mentally disturbed individual who wants to call him daddy. I'd say seek help, but I thirst over dark elf women as well. I'm no better, and I just know what you are. And I know this. Nothing can redeem the Dark Eldar, except for one god. And more on them in the future. And as always, end with a quote. Explain your meaning, slave, in plainer words. My translator unit has clearly fouled on your primitive tongue, as it continues to incessantly repeat some nonsense phrase about a fair fight, whatever that might be intended to mean. Thanks for listening. And before I forget, I have to thank all of our new members. A majority of you, while gifted, still matter. Delta Crafter, Unnamed, Bagged Soup, Laser, Mark Coyle, Gab Houghton, Josh Ames, Corspor, Jake Hoffman, Javier Soto, Giorgio, Alexander Sage, Mount Papa 11, Hannah Olivier, Charmine 26, Orgasmic Potato, Overdraft Perfection, Nicholas, Celarith, Broken Table Glass 22, Feigned Contact, or Fiend Contact. I think it's Feigned. He's German. I don't know how to say German stuff. I'm American. Mitchell Herbert, really big. K Mappy, Omidium, Black Roses 750, X, just all just lowercase as well. Sam Dynan, Captain Bubbles, and Violet Gothic. And a special thanks to Ape Brain Esquire, Robbie Nito, Never Lost Man, you absolute psychopath, Solo Wing Pixie, and Istra, you son of a bitch. I should have never told you about this channel. Thanks to your memberships, this channel might actually have a shot at being, I don't want to necessarily say profitable because it's not like I'm spending much on these videos to begin with, just my time, but it does give me more incentive and more of a cushion to be able to do these videos and sometimes take time off of work. As always, I'll see you in the next video. We're doing Imperium next time, and we're probably going to try to do something a little bit more happy. We had 2 depressing factions back to back. Thanks for watching.